So I really want to talk to you about this again, crypto fascism meets Christian nationalism that is now in the form of the Trump campaign. And let's start with JD Vance. What were your thoughts when he was selected to be vice presidential running mate for Trump? And then tell us about how Peter Thiel, again, the co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, how he formed JD Vance.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I was surprised. Like I think there was definitely talk of him being a possibility, but then kind of learning the backstory of how he came to be chosen, I think was even more surprising. Both, apparently the conversation that Trump had with his sons, where Eric and Don Jr. were basically like, you have to pick JD Vance. You can't pick this other guy. But also, I think it was a couple weeks before the convention, Trump was in San Francisco for a fundraiser that was organized by David Sachs, who, is another of these tech guys who's really pushing, the Republican Party, Donald Trump. He's kind of like a pro-Russia guy, basically. This is kind of his milieu. But so Trump was in Silicon Valley and he was sitting down with all these like rich tech billionaires. And he was like, who should I choose as VP? And they were all like, choose JD Vance because he's our guy, right? And the reason that he's our guy is because he comes out of the Thiel network, right? Peter Thiel's network of people. So in 2016, when JD Vance released Hillbilly Elegy, which is, I think, what most people would know him for, he also joined Mithro Capital, which was a venture capital firm founded and funded by Peter Thiel. And so that was his like primary entry into Peter Thiel's network. By 2020, he branched off and started his own venture capital firm, Narya Capital, which has a Lord of the Rings name because Peter Thiel really likes Lord of the Rings. And that venture capital firm received $100 million from Peter Thiel and his network to get it started. And then the following year, when JD Vance ran for Senate, he again needed money. And Peter Thiel put $15 million into his Senate campaign, which was most of the funding that he needed to run that. So Peter Thiel has basically been financing this guy for a very long time. JD Vance has said that Peter Thiel has been a huge influence on him even before he was, kind of employed by Peter Thiel. He saw him speak at Yale Law School in 2011, and that was like his real introduction to this guy. And he said that like his conversion to Christianity, or like this particular form of Christianity that he ascribes to, is because of Peter Thiel's influence. Like this is a guy who has had a huge impact on him. And Peter Thiel is obviously someone who is against democracy, who thinks that giving women the vote was a mistake, who is very much against minority rights, is basically kind of like
F the LGBTQ community, except for him.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what's so amazing. It's like, I was going to ask you like how someone who is, we all know is gay, can be so anti-gay in their policies. And that is completely compatible with their worldview because they literally get to do everything they want and anything. They have freedom. It's the people, it's the plebes who need to have restrictions on their freedoms. And that is like, that's like totally fine. Like I've bought myself out of rule of law or supposed rule of law for everybody else. But sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's like libertarianism, right? Like
exactly.
they want the government to not affect them in any way as long as they are like super rich and can do whatever they want, right? If they were poor people, I'm sure that they would have a different set of concerns, but because they're some of the richest people in the world, they really do not want the government to affect them. And even more importantly, I think the key thing is to say, especially as we see these people embracing Donald Trump and the Trump campaign, is that sure, they advertise themselves as libertarian for like, the past couple of decades, but really they wanted to ensure that the government wasn't affecting them, wasn't doing anything to them. And now that they see, say, the Biden administration, the European Union, increasingly looking at regulating them, holding them to account for, their breaches of labor law, environmental regulations, and things like that, they are like, okay, we can't just hold back any longer. We need to explicitly enter the political system, buy our way into the political system to make sure that, in this case, in particular, the Republican Party, and we can talk about the Democratic Party if you want, but to make sure that Republican politicians, whether it's, on the federal level, but also on the state level, as we're seeing in Texas, for example, are going to let us do whatever we want, are not going to tax us, are not going to hold us to account, are not going to regulate us.
Yeah, I mean, it is truly terrifying that tech libertarians have entered into the political realm. Um, but that's how much the USB-C mandate has hurt their bottom line, Paris. How dare you make us make the same plug in Europe? God damn it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Apple is so
amazing.
mad right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apple. Oh my God. No, obviously, like, and a lot of these are the ones, and you've been on the show before to talk about crypto and AI. A lot of them, like Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz, who I've called David Horowitz, and I apologize before whatever. So, but Andreessen and Horowitz are also coalescing around Trump because of, I mean, why, right? I think it's like they see him as the quickest path to the least regulation. Is
Yeah.
that basically it?
I would say so, especially in the past number of years when we've seen the Democrats, the Democrats are traditionally very friendly to Silicon Valley as well, right? If you think about the Clinton administration, they privatized the internet and kind of kicked off this whole boom, this whole ride that we've been on for the past few decades. The Obama administration was very friendly to the tech industry, was very friendly to Google and Facebook and all of these companies, because at the time they weren't, the hated companies that a lot of people see them as today, right?
They weren't as
They
big.
were no, exactly. And they were kind of seen as like the good version of capitalism, They
Right.
they weren't these evil corporations that we're always dealing with in the finance industry and the oil companies and stuff like that. They were the tech companies. They were the good ones, right?
Right.
And we can very clearly see that that is not the case any longer. They were just smaller, and as they've grown, they've become worse and worse because the scale of, the harms that they create are, just grows as they grow too. And so basically what we see there is the tech industry is seeing that the Democrats, Biden put Lena Khan in the FTC. They've been moving forward on antitrust cases, all of these sorts of things. Companies like say Tesla and SpaceX have been seeing more, you know, more accountability for breaching workers' rights, for breaching environmental rights, and are getting really angry about that. And many other tech companies are experiencing similar things. And so they see that the Democrats are the ones that are trying to hold them to account. And the Republicans, which, obviously the Democrats and the Republicans are both friendly to corporate America,
Of
but they
course.
see their ability to ensure that the Republicans are going to basically let them do whatever they want as long as they let right wingers post whatever they want on social media. Then besides that, they don't really care, right? They'll make sure that the taxes are low. The Trump tax cuts were very good for the tech industry. They allowed Apple to take a lot of their foreign money back into the United States at a very low tax
Hmm.
rate. The billionaires got massive tax cuts, but also, he was slashing environmental regulations. He was not going to like expand workers' rights, even though the Republican Party under him makes it seem like they're very friendly to workers. You can very clearly see how the tech industry is aligned with a Trumpist kind of Republican Party and sees how it benefits them.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do